Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whoever you are. My name is Schmid, also known as Mr. IoT. I am Deloitte's Chief IoT Technologist with a deep passion for all things digital. This week on Coffee with Mr. IoT, Heather and I are talking with Bruce Sinclair, a publisher, author, and you talk a lot about a variety of different IoT topics, Bruce. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you. What did I not say that I should have said?
No, I think you covered it all. It kind of gets, well, the newest one now that I can add to my title is author. So I mean, I think you mentioned that, did you? So yeah, I that's kind of a new one for me. It actually only happened a week ago. Yeah, so just last week at IoT World.
Congratulations. What did you write? What's the book?
All right, get ready for it. It's a long one, but I did. So it's McGraw-Hill. When you go with a traditional publisher, they kind of take control of this stuff. But IoT Inc., how your company can use the Internet of Things to win in the outcome economy.
Okay.
It's got all the keywords in there. All the SEO is like perfectly in the title.
And how thick is it?
That big.
That big. Do you have it? Can you show it to us?
Yeah, I can actually. Let me see where it is.
Well, good morning, Heather. It's good to have you back. You missed you last week.
Did you? I was thinking of you.
Well, thank you. Well, it's sort of, I have to say, I always feel the content isn't as broad and as deep as when you come on. So welcome back. So, Bruce, what's the book? Show it to us, please. We'd love to see it.
There's the book.
Is that Tiffany blue? Or is it like sea green?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like it. Again, they kind of make a lot of the decisions, and one of the decisions they do, they have complete control over the cover. They have control over the name, and I don't know. I was kind of a bit strange on it because this is nice because it actually is close to my brand color. But when I saw the mock-ups, I didn't really like the idea of the white here and then a different color here. But it turns out it's actually pretty good, and a lot of people have said they really liked it. So, yeah, so it's kind of, yeah, it's growing on me. But it's happy. This is a long time coming, that's for sure.
You aren't being a precious artist about losing control over the design of your baby?
No, because it's the inside that counts, right? So it's all the 300 pages that are on the inside that they don't have control over. Although they can edit. She did take out one story. So my daughter is a devout vegan. One of the stories and one of the things that I talk about in the book is an example. I go through this process, the 360-degree requirement process, and I use a IoT frying pan as an example. And so I start off with, the science of cooking meat and how you regulate to get a great steak. It gets down to breaking down proteins, different types of proteins. But at the beginning, I have just a little bit of a preface, I guess, talking about my daughter and how if she found out this is going to be really bad news. And that's one thing. That's the only editorial control. She actually took that out because she said, no one cares about your daughter. No one cares about you. They just want to get this information. So other than that, there was complete control in terms of the text within the book.
I think she was like, don't piss off the vegans, whatever you do.
You're probably right, actually. I didn't think about that. The angry vegans, and especially where I live, in this area where we all live, yeah, you don't want to get on their bad side. And specifically, my daughter's a teenager, and so a teenage vegan, just stay, you just got to keep your distance for sure.
So you wrote a book, you published a lot. I looked at your website, and one of the things I really liked about your website was you bring a lot of different people to your website to write blogs and to give podcasts. I'd love to hear sort of like, what's you and what's the people that you bring? And sort of like, you bring people that very much align with your thoughts on IoT, and what is that? And what are the thoughts you kind of find is unique that you sort of bring into the picture around IoT and the market and what goes on?
Well, it's bringing in a lot of people kind of gives you different views. And one of the things when you're doing a podcast, it gives you license to more or less contact anyone you like. For me, I'm definitely not going to choose people intentionally that have my same worldview. I'm going to want to try to get different worldviews to be able to learn. And quite frankly, the book, a lot of it came out of just interviewing so many people for the podcast, for the video, that I just learned from doing it too. So that's kind of the little secret, is when you do like videos like this and you talk to a lot of people, or you do podcasts, you get to learn from them. And so I don't know, at some point, you know, sometimes you converge, sometimes you don't, but I choose people, I mean, intentionally. In the podcast itself, it's specifically for business managers, and my whole shtick is on how to make business with IoT. But I also know that this is such a technical area that we had to cover the technology. So I was very specific with the media, I guess, plan in terms of choosing the technology. So we spent the first 35 episodes going from sensor, going on the embedded, the RTOS and the embedded, the actual network protocols, then the OT network, the IT network, the uplink, got to the product cloud, went to the platform, went through did another, series of 5 on analytics, a series of 5 on security. So that was very specific. And then from there, I guess now we just released episode 80 was last night or this morning. And so I guess the other 50 or 40 have been all on different aspects of business. How do you make money, operational issues, creating value, and then strategic ones as well, in terms of looking how IoT will change things. And then if you can sort of see that, it's kind of the Wayne Gretzky approach. I'm Canadian, so if you can sort of interpret where the puck is going to be, then it helps you in your daily decisions.
I've been surrounded by Canadians and Greeks in the last 2 days. I don't know what I'm attracting here. There's something going on. And there were also 3 separate bird feathers in my path in 3 different places in the last 24 hours. So I've been researching what that's supposed to be telling me too. Anyway, question for you. I don't know what the heck is going on, but we'll figure it out. If you could, now you wrote a book and you've done 80 podcasts on the topic. If you could sum up how to create value with IoT in one word, what word would you pick?
In one word, I would say invention.
Oh, I like that. Now say more about why you picked invention.
So invention, I think, if you look at IoT, the narrative around IoT today is mostly like IT. And so what they're looking at is the bottom of the P&L, trying to save money from operational efficiencies, trying to get more out of their assets, through asset utilization. But the real value in IoT, the real kicker, is going to be on the top, the top of the P&L, where you're doing innovation. So you're making products better, but then creating new products. And so there's a whole opportunity when you instrument your product and you instrument your customer's business, that you can see what they're doing, and not only that, but you can see how they're making money. And if you treat that information properly, process that information properly, it gives you a lot of ideas, and that's where the invention comes in. And that I think is the second step. TV came in, we watched radio on TV, and now IoT comes in, and we're doing IT with IoT still. But that's going to change, and I think it's just going to take a bit of time before we get comfortable with this technology.
So that's interesting. We are doing IT with IoT.
That's kind of my perspective.
What is IoT with IoT? I mean, just give me an actual example where you feel like this is IT with IoT today, and this is where we're going to go.
Yeah, so the way I look at it, there's really 4 ways to create value with the Internet of Things. And again, it's just a technology, so we need to use it in specific ways. The first way is make products better. That's innovation. Second way is to operate products better. That's operational efficiency. Maintain products better. That's asset utilization. And then make new products better, and that's invention. And so, again, if you think what you just came back from a conference, I also just came back from a conference, and again, the discussion is mostly around operational efficiency, or it's around predictive maintenance. And predictive maintenance is a subset of asset utilization. So both asset utilization and operational efficiency, that's what we've been doing with IT. And so what we're doing is we're just trying to squeeze that extra points of a percentage out of the efficiency of an operation. Now we're doing it with the assets, with the actual physical things. And so that's what I mean by that, in the sense of right now, still IoT is being looked at, mostly it's being looked at, how do we save money? And I think that's it. So how do we save money as opposed to how do we make more money? And that's kind of, I don't know, I kind of draw the parallels with where IT has been, only looking at different parts of the business. Now we're kind of looking at it the same way, but we're looking at different parts of the business the same way as we did before, as if it was IT.
Can I tell you, I indulged in recent IoT, like super indulgent purchase of the Furbo. And I remember seeing it at CES a few years ago, thinking, all right, I don't need that. And then suddenly I was faced with it again. And I'm like, oh my God, I need it. And I can't tell you how fun it is to watch my dog come get treats and to talk to him through the little camera. It's pretty awesome. Have you played with it?
For the people who don't know what Furbo is.
So it's a little treat bowl with a camera, Wi-Fi enabled, and you can press a microphone and talk to your dog, and you can also press a treat button and a treat pops out and your dog comes up and eats the treat and licks the camera, so you can like communicate with your animals throughout the day. And my kittens come running too, so it's an extra bonus as you get to see the little kittens sniffing around. It's a highlight of my day.
No, do they have a kids version?
IoT, or is this actually a new product?
It's a new product created. Well, that's why you made me think of it, because it's one of those things where we weren't trying to make a product better with IoT. It was the IoT inspired the creation of a product. Well, I highly recommend, I don't get paid by Furbo, but I highly recommend that everybody with a dog get a Furbo because it's pretty fun.
Yeah, there's another one too. I have a monthly meetup in the Silicon Valley, and one of my guests was Petzilla. So Petzilla is very similar, but that one, it projectiles, so you can put any food in it, so it has to be the hard, dog food. And it's not really for cats, I guess, but it shoots it out. So it actually, I don't know if yours does, but this one shoots it out on the floor. It doesn't put it in a bowl. So there's another alternative if you want something a little bit more I guess dynamic.
Aggressive.
Petzilla also.
Yeah. Tell you guys, I think I have to change one of my slides. I have in one of my slide decks, I have this when is IoT going too far and what's really not IoT. And I think I have both of the examples you just mentioned as the one thing that is too far in IoT. And now after this conversation, maybe I have to rethink this. So, Bruce, let me come back to this IT versus OT thing. I think it's really interesting, right? You talked about IT doing IoT. I had a keynote this week. I spoke about our new turnkey IoT for manufacturing solution, and which is predictive maintenance, by the way, which is interesting. It leads to predictive maintenance, and it allows you to get condition-based monitoring within days rather than weeks or months. So in any case, we had Ian Fountain up there from National Instruments, one of the companies we work together with, and he talked about this clash of IoT and IT and OT. What do you see out there around this? And I almost want to ask you, don't talk about the technical stuff, but talk about the human interaction. Why is it so different for when the IT group in the company gets together with the OT group? And historical, what do you see?
Well, yeah, I think that is more of a clash of cultures, because technically, what we're talking about is network protocols. And the network protocol, there's three protocols that are used in IoT, and the network protocol is the center one. And OT, they're all proprietary. And that's because you needed it for the manufacturing plant, then you built a new one for the electric grid, then you built a new one for hospitals, for building automation. But that's not hard, because we've got IP, which is the internet protocol that we're using in the Internet of Humans, and we could easily use it there. But the bigger issue is the one that you're identifying, and that is we have two different groups, and one's a cost center and one's a profit center. So the OT group, the operational technology group, they're in charge of making sure that the system is working properly to make the money. And the IT group, well, they're taking budget and they're kind of supporting everything. And so the big discussion in organizations, whether they're building IoT systems or discrete products or more environments, is what do you do with these two organizations? Because you need to have them play well together. And so generally what's been happening has been the OT is winning out. Why? Because they're the ones making money, and the IT is spending the money. but it is a two different way. OT wants to make sure, that nothing goes down ever, that they're not as concerned with the same issues as IT, which they're more concerned with issues like security, which are important, obviously, but it's just two different cultures.
Yeah, that's a familiar analogy in this world that we live in, of where we're going with all of this tech disruption that's happening, isn't it? I mean, you can play that kind of a battle out in multiple different places. So who's been some of the highlights of the people that you've been able to interact with over the years or time that you've been doing this?
Well, in terms of highlights, I mean, I see businesses that are really embracing IoT, in a good way or in the right way, and then I see businesses that are just using IoT kind of as plumbing and creating. I kind of make a distinction between smart products, connected products, and IoT products, and some of the I think the industry right now is still in the mindset of a connected product and just using it just for plumbing, just using it for connectivity. But if you think about it, the internet is far more than just plumbing. It's far more than just connectivity. And so those companies that are going a little bit beyond, and that's when they start looking at bringing in the analytics, using the data, the new oil, but using that data in a way that can help their organizations. I think those are the highlights. And the consumer space is kind of maybe on the opposite end of the spectrum, because the way that it's funded right now often is through a crowdsourcing, crowdsource funded. And this company I was talking about earlier, Petzilla, they were crowdfunded. However, once you have the stakeholders, when they put in $100 or $200, it's not smart money. Not that the people aren't smart, but they're not really that I guess engaged with making sure the money does what it should do. And so you get these products that are just, they go all out. So connected water bottles, you name it, you can have pretty much a connected thing. But the problem is, after you get the first models out there, one, they're not caring about certain things like security, but secondly, it's not really a market there other than the initial backers usually. And so I guess, just putting on the business cap, then I'm liking the highlights are, when companies get it, when they're using the data, when they're actually, transforming the data into useful information, which is the derivation of all the value. So, yeah.
Well, if you're just joining us, I'm Robert Schmid, the Chief IT Technologist for Deloitte, together with Heather Rangel and Bruce Sinclair, and you're watching Coffee with Mr.IoT. And we're talking about a variety of just IoT, the market, and what's going on. Bruce, I want to turn this around, this thing, and so you talk about crowdsourcing and so forth. By the way, the water bottle is something that I think I need all the time because I don't drink enough water, and that water bottle would remind me. It's kind of funny, right? I wonder what do you think of looking at this the other way? And what I often do is I ask people to go along on a journey with me, and the journey is to think that all things will be connected. I go and I look at this and I say, my mom, if you would have told me 10 years ago that she video chats me on Google Hangouts to say hi to me, I would have called you crazy, and that's what happens today. And really in the US, 90% of all people are on the internet. So why not all things? We don't call it the internet of people, we call it the internet. Why don't we connect all things? And then what does that do to your product? Do you think this is what's going to happen? It's actually not going to be sort of like crowdsourcing for individual product ideas, but actually all people creating products will figure out that they actually have to connect it in order to stay connected with the product, to provide service on the product, to give new ideas. I mean, I don't know, it's sort of like it's the other way around. Anybody who creates a product needs to actually be connected, or do you disagree?
No, I mean, I think I'm often asked, as you are probably, is what is the Internet of Things? And to me, I just say, technically, it's just the internet. It's just the internet, and it's just being extended further into physical objects. And so, if you think about that, and if you kind of nod your head at that, then it makes sense that eventually, just like every company uses the internet, every company is going to end up using the Internet of Things. And so eventually, it's not going to be really called anything. It's just going to be the new, the new, I suppose. So yeah, I think it's just an evolution of the technology. Of course, what the effect it has on businesses is very different. It's more revolutionary, but the technology is just going to creep its way into everything, as it has, just slowly and surely. And yeah, every product will have it. But the issue is the cost part, because the incremental cost of doing an IoT product is there because there's a back end, right? So if you have that connected water bottle, for example, that tells you to drink and whatever else it does, you see the discrete product, and then but you don't see the back end. And there's an entire back end infrastructure to be able to do what it does. And so if that incremental value isn't greater than the incremental cost, then we get an issue. So if you look at most of, since we're talking a little bit about consumer IoT, if you look at most of the products that are out there today, you've got a doorbell that you can buy for $20, or you got a connected doorbell you can buy for $200. You got a lock you can buy for $15. You got a connected lock you can buy for $150. Thermostat, same thing, right? $20, $200. And so right now, generally, we're looking at a 10x difference. So while I say on one hand, technically, it's, it makes sense that eventually all products will be able to, will use the Internet of Things, will use the Internet, I should say, but there's still the business issue that has to be worked through. And I think that's going to go through a different area of innovation. Technically, we have a lot of innovation, specifically where we are in the Silicon Valley, where you throw a rock and you're gonna have some super technology. But I think there has to be as much innovation in the business models as there are in the technology for IoT to really get to that point where you can have a connected everything because of that extra incremental cost. And so there's a lot of dynamics, and they're different if you look at B2C IoT versus B2B IoT, but there are the challenges.
Yeah. I love the way that you describe that, and your response to my last question too was quite eloquent. I do just want to, for the record, conclude by saying that Robert shot down my idea that Furbo was IoT, and you just confirmed that I was right. It actually is a great example of IoT. It's just on the low end of the spectrum of advanced utility. Can I please go on the record?
You're on the record. I told you, I'm changing the slide. I'm taking it out because of you. It doesn't work anymore.
So go ahead.
Go ahead, Heather. Heather, you were going to say something?
Oh, sorry. I thought I interrupted you. I apologize. Well, I'd like to play the music for the feminist question moment, but I wonder, in all your 80 podcasts and in the research that you did for the book, what percentage, ballpark, of women are working in the field, and where do you see the gender kind of equality going in the field of IoT?
So I'll answer that with a bit of a funny story that just happened last week. So as I mentioned, my book came out last week, and I was also fortunate to be the opening keynote speaker for Internet of Things World in Santa Clara. That was last week, and they allowed me to put a little table. So I got one of those. I printed up one of those pull-up banners, and got the Square device, and I had my two teenagers go to the conference and see Dad, do his thing, and then they sold my book just outside the keynote room. It's huge in the Santa Clara Convention Center. And one of the conversations that came up was from my daughter. So my son is very technical, and he digs this. This is areas that he's going to go in. My vegan daughter, she's very environmental, and she's looking into environmental policy. But one of the things that she asked, she just looked around, as there's all the people that are in the coffee break, and she goes, yeah, Dad, what percentage would you say, of women are there in IoT? So your exact question. We looked in the room, and it's about the same. I think it's like, it seems like it's around 10%, maybe 5%. At least looking, so I've got two sample points. The first population is the conference, that I just attended, and Robert might have a different, maybe there was a different mix at his, but yeah, it seems like 1 in 20, something like that seems about right. And I think if we look at the guests that I've had on my show, it's probably been around the same thing, probably 1 in 20. So that would imply 4, and that might even be high. So I do videos too, so maybe include the videos, and it's probably about, yeah, it's probably about 1 in 20. So.
Well, the show is almost coming to a close. Just Heather, for your record, at the Deloitte booth this week, we had about a third were women. So I was pretty happy with that. I have to tell you that the CEO of PTC did an awesome job at his keynote. Half of the people on stage with him were women. And then the conference concluded with the woman who came up with Girls Who Code. And her favorite statement she made was that we can fill the tech gap, the knowledge gap that we have in our industry if we just get women to code, which I love that concept. So I really have to say I was impressed how they tried to make diversity a big aspect of the show, and I think it sort of shows how it's up to all three of us to kind of keep doing this. So with that, Bruce, thank you so much for joining us. Maybe you want to hold up the book one more time? Where can we get it?
It's available now. It's available. Well, it's kind of been selling out. It's been coming back and forth. So it's IoT Inc. You just do a search on IoT Business or IoT Inc. book. It should come up.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Heather, for being back. And please join Heather and I again next Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, for another Coffee with Mr. IoT. And by the way, if you missed any part of today's conversation, you can watch this episode again on my YouTube channel, and you can see all our past conversations too. With that, I want to wish everybody a happy Friday. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.